What is good, everybody? Welcome back to another episode brought to you by the League FFB. Today, we're here for another episode of Let's Talk Dynasty, your guys' favorite Dynasty Fantasy Football podcast, hosted by me and my co-host MFGDs. So I hope you guys are excited for this today. What we are doing is we are going to be talking about players that you guys should probably be avoiding in your 2024 Dynasty Fantasy Football startup drafts in those leagues, pretty much avoiding these guys at all costs because they just aren't going to be doing it for you or your fantasy football teams anymore. So without wasting any more time, let's hop right into this video. But first, we got to bring in my co-host. So let's get MFGDs in the building. War, how you doing today, man?
I'm doing good, man, and I'm definitely in the building and in full effect. I'm ready to say things that will make you guys criticize me very heavily as usual and be highly controversial because that's why I'm here.
Hey,
MFDG
man,
style. Let's get it.
there you go. If it weren't for the good takes, the bad takes, the hot takes, and everything in between, it wouldn't be Let's Talk Dynasty. So we got to get after it
Right.
today. But man, I did want to start off our episode with a question from the Discord because we are introducing an AMA channel in the Discord, and it's really Ask Me Anything. And I told them, I said, we will answer one or two of these questions from that Discord on every episode of Let's Talk Dynasty moving forward. So we're going to start it off with a question today. This question is coming in from Pete Jones 999. He says, is Michael Pittman Jr. a hold, or should he be selling high in his Dynasty Fantasy Football leagues after his 2023 season?
I think he's a hold. You have to look at it. The production, okay, I think we've seen enough of Anthony Richardson to kind of alleviate some of our concerns about him as a passer. And he's coming back next season, and I think he's only going to improve in year two. So I think Pittman is definitely a hold. He put up those numbers with Gardner Minshew, who's no slouch, by the way. I love Gardner Minshew. It's just that I think that ceiling for Anthony Richardson is higher. Michael Pittman, he's a young asset. Why trade him? Keep him, let him grow, let him. He might even put up better numbers. Who knows?
Yeah, man. I mean, I'm just looking at it right now, and as I'm looking at where he is currently ranked over there on KTC, right now it looks like the community has Michael Pittman Jr. as the wide receiver 18. Michael Pittman's 26 years old. He's coming off of a year, like you said, where he was playing with Gardner Minshew. He was averaging 15.6 fantasy points per game, which was good for wide receiver 14. So he's actually being valued lower by the community right now than what he was averaging and scoring for you from a fantasy points per game perspective. I don't think this is a sell high window for Michael Pittman. Unfortunately, it seems like he had a good year where he overperformed with the backup quarterback, and people aren't recognizing it. People are saying, hey, that is who Michael Pittman is. That's that. And I don't think we should be selling high. In fact, I don't even think this is an opportunity to sell high. To me, Michael Pittman Jr. is a hold, and at 26 years old, this is a guy you can continue building around in your Dynasty Fantasy Football leagues for probably several more years. And he's a free agent. So there is some uncertainty there, but I think most likely he'll be back in Indianapolis.
Yeah. I don't think they're going to let him go test free agency. I think if anything, they might franchise tag him. So we'll see.
Fair enough. All right, man. Well, that is our question of the day from our AMA channel in the Discord. But we are here today to talk about players that you should be avoiding in your Dynasty Fantasy Football leagues. We each nominated and brought in 3 guys. We're going to be stating our case for each of these guys. And I say we just hop right into this. And should I kick it off with my first guy?
Let's kick it off. Let's do it.
All right, man. Well, it is the guy in the thumbnail. So, player to avoid this year in 2024 in your Dynasty Fantasy Football leagues is going to be Austin Ekeler. And I just got a couple little pieces of statistics for you guys. And first and foremost, I think we need to recognize that Austin Ekeler, he's going to be 29 years old. He's heading into his 29-year-old season. So, we're all familiar with the running back age cliff. If you're not familiar with the running back age cliff, it is basically that significant dip in production that you get once you reach a certain age, or I think more likely once you've reached a certain amount of years or carries at the NFL level. I think Austin Ekeler is probably been taken by the running back age cliff at this point. He did have a pretty disappointing year in 2023. He played in 14 games last year. In those 14 games, he was averaging 13.2 fantasy points per game. I think the biggest thing and why I say he has been taken by that running back age cliff is we saw massive regressions in the touchdowns. He scored 20 touchdowns in 2021. He scored 18 in 2022. And then he posted 6 touchdowns in 2023. So that is 12 less touchdowns than 2022 and 14 less than the year before that. Additionally, this is a guy who saw his lowest career numbers in rushing attempts, rushing yards, receptions, and receiving yards since 2020 when he started taking off for your fantasy football teams. He also posted his lowest in yards per carry of his career. That's the entirety of the career. And so, yeah, there's a lot of things that point to it being a down year, but I don't think it was just a down year. I think we've seen him fall off that running back age cliff. I think it has taken another running back. And unfortunately, I don't know if we're ever going to get running back 1 numbers out of Austin Ekeler, probably ever again. So that was my first nomination. And I do want to tell you kind of where he's being ranked right now in your Dynasty Fantasy Football Leagues. He has seen a significant fall off in value just over the last 6 months, just over the last 6 months in itself. He has went from where he was being valued as the running back 9 in Dynasty Fantasy Football to where he is now being valued as the running back 38. So he's virtually fallen 30 spaces in that Dynasty rankings already. It's not good for Austin Ekeler, and I think some people would consider this maybe a buy if you believe that that was just a down year. But he's being valued in the same tier as guys like Zamir White, Braylon Allen, James Conner, Roshan Johnson, Derrick Henry. I think at this point, and this might be a hot take war, I think I would rather have James Conner than Austin Ekeler for my Dynasty Fantasy Football teams moving forward.
Woo! Okay, man. Austin Ekeler, you cost me some money. I want to start that the first. Let me tell you my history of Austin Ekeler, and it's a little bit funny. When Austin Ekeler was first getting his career kicked off, getting started, I doubted Austin Ekeler. I doubted him and doubted him. I would not draft him. And every year he's either killed me, going against me, or I'll just skip him and it'd just be a bad draft pick by me not taking him. The year I finally take this guy, okay, Austin, let's bury the hatchet. Let's let bygones be bygones. The guy burns me. He's done. He's washed up. What's that on the beach over there? Come on, let's go check it out. Is it a well? Is it a beach well? No, it's Austin Ekeler. He's done. He's washed up. He's done. This guy, I don't know if I would have him be my running back 3. I would take James Conner over him. Hell, I'll take Snoop Conner over him at this point. I will not be having Austin Ekeler on my team. Thank you very much.
I hear you, man. I want to ask you, I just want to play a little bit of a game. Let's pretend you have Austin Ekeler on a team right now.
All right.
Assuming it is a 12-man league, and I come to you and I say, War, I have my 203. It's the 15th player drafted in your rookie drafts. Will you take my 203 for Austin Ekeler?
Yes.
What if I come to you?
As you traded me to 2.3, I'll be like, oh man, I got him. That's what I'll be saying.
All right. So what if I say, hey, look, I got my 208, the 20th player off the board.
I'll take that too.
All right. So where is your selling point? Like where you're like, I'd just rather keep Austin Ekeler. Is it a 3rd round pick?
A late 3rd.
A late 3rd? You would take the 301 for Austin Ekeler?
Yes, I would take less than 301 because when a running back is done, he's done. I'm looking at him as the same way. At this point, I'm looking at him the same way we look at Latavius Murray, the same way we look at Le'Veon Bell, Leonard Fournette. Those guys like Austin Ekeler very well could be on the waiver wire this season. Like I'm just being, because the way he fell off, you don't come back from that. You don't come back. I definitely don't think the Chargers should have him as their RB1. Maybe the RB2, you know, but even then, it's like you complained, you whined about your contract, and then you come out and do this. I don't know, man. Austin Ekeler, man, he's trash.
Yeah, man. I think the unfortunate thing is I think there isn't a single fantasy football player that dislikes Austin Ekeler. This is a guy who has been like the spokesperson from an NFL perspective for fantasy football. So like everybody loves Austin Ekeler. And so unfortunately, this is not fun when this happens. And I think one of the most disheartening and one of the most unfortunate things that I've seen this offseason is Austin Ekeler has his own fantasy football podcast or NFL podcast. He does it with Matt Harmon over on Yahoo. And he said in his podcast, he said, I don't suck. Like he's like, I'm sitting here thinking in my mind, he's like, I haven't fallen off, have I? Like, and it sounds like he's almost second guessing, like, has he lost a step? Like, it seems like he's having that internal dialogue with himself. And I'm like, damn, if you're having that thought, like, as a professional athlete, you probably have, bro. Like, it's because these guys are some of the most confident guys, like, especially to play in the NFL. Like, you have to think you're the best guy on the field. You know what I mean? Like, you got to have that dog mentality. And when you come home and you're like, am I the same guy I was? That sucks, man. That means you probably just aren't. Like, you probably lost that step. And so to me, man, I think Austin Ekeler, he's my first guy that I'm avoiding. I just don't know. I just don't see a reason why I would be drafting Austin Ekeler in a startup draft. I don't see a reason why I would be trading for Austin Ekeler at this point. Unfortunately, it seems like with running backs, like you said, War, once that cliff hits, it hits. Like it's it. That's it. And if you would have sold Austin Ekeler 12 months ago, you probably would have got a pretty penny. People would have paid you a lot of value to buy your Austin Ekeler. But that age cliff hit, and as soon as it shows the signs, people are done. People are out. And I think we're both out on Austin Ekeler at this point.
Yeah, at this point, Austin Ekeler is that piece of furniture on a poorly packed pickup truck. You get to your destination, you look, you say, oh, man, where's Austin Ekeler? And you realize it's broken in pieces on the freeway. He's done.
Don't need it anymore. Buy yourself a new one.
Get a new one. They're cheap.
All right, man.
Get them in the third round.
Amazon Prime that bitch. All right, man. We're going over to your first player. So the first player that you wanted to nominate and talk about is going to be Joe Mixon, running back for the Cincinnati Bengals. So talk to me about Joe Mixon, War.
Joe Mixon. I thought Joe Mixon was done last offseason when there were rumors that he was going to be released. He comes in, he had a serviceable season. I can't say he did too bad, but he has to be done. Now, not only do I think he's done, I think they may have even found his adequate replacement for Joe Mixon. I think that his last hoorah was going to be this past season. Unfortunately for him, Joe Burrow goes out, he gets injured, starts the season, gets injured for the rest of the season. So I think his time at Cincinnati, I think it may be over. I mean, maybe just similar like with Austin Ekeler, maybe they'll be like, okay, Joe, you can stay here. You could be, you could spell the other running back. We can have a timeshare. But for the most part, the Joe Mixon that we know and love is not going to be the Joe Mixon that we have on our teams this year. He's just not. Unfortunately, running back age cliff strikes again. I don't think Joe Mixon is a guy that I would want to roster unless I absolutely positively have to if I'm short on running backs. And I just don't think that he's long for this fantasy world.
Fair enough, man. I think for me, I slightly disagree with you. And I know we have that discourse where you've called me the Joe Mixon fan club in years past. So I get it. The only thing that I slightly disagree with you now, I will say, as far as the contract goes, like them potentially probably considering moving on from Joe Mixon from a contract perspective, like I definitely understand that argument. I hear that argument. I do think that Chase Brown looked good in the opportunity that he had at times. So I agree with you on those points. The only thing that I disagree with you on right now is I don't know if we've seen the signs of the age cliff from Joe Mixon yet. Now, that doesn't mean that it can't be on the horizon. Like this could be one of those situations where, you're getting out early where we haven't necessarily seen the signs. But I do think that the community as a whole right now has kind of already bundled him into that age cliff range of guys because he is being valued right now as the dynasty running back 30. So he is pretty much pushed down rankings. People have pretty much said, hey, we don't really want Joe Mixon anymore. And so I do think from that from that perspective, he has kind of been written off. I personally probably on contending rosters only, hear what I'm saying, contending rosters only would be considering buying Joe Mixon at this price if I needed a running back, because I think we can get one more year out of him. Last year, he was 11th overall in fantasy points per game. Now, a lot of that was probably due to the opportunity share that he was seeing. He had a top 3 opportunity share in the NFL, was top 5 in carries, top 13 in targets, top 3 in red zone touches. That is probably what held him on last year. Now, when it comes to the true yards per carry, 40th overall in the NFL. Yards per touch, 36th overall in the NFL. The juke rate, 34th in the NFL. Breakaway run rate, 41 in the NFL. So I could see the efficiencies being an issue if he doesn't receive the volume. But if he stays in Cincinnati, and that is the bet that people are going to have to make, do they choose to let him stay in Cincinnati on this contract for one more year? Because he only has 1 year left on that deal. If they allow him to do that, does he receive the volume? If so, I think he's a value. If he doesn't receive the volume, he's done. So that is the bet that some people are going to have to make. I think at cost, I am probably going to make the bet on my contending rosters, because from a draft pick perspective, that is equivalent to I'm trying to look at it right now. That is the equivalent to a mid 2025 second. I think I'm willing to do that if I can push for a championship, but that is the only situation. I see we got James in here. He says 2 for 2, my buddy's dynasty team. If they say Cup next, I'm going to roll on the floor laughing. Unfortunately, spoiler alert, Cup is not in this episode today, but he probably should be
he probably
honorable
should be,
mention.
yeah.
But that is my only 2 cents on that war. Do you agree that there could be value if you're a contender, or you're just done completely? I mean, you nominated him for a void.
I mean, yeah, contender. When I say avoid, I mainly mean like
Drafting.
as a fantasy, anything more than a flex starter. I mean, I'm thinking I'm definitely not comfortable having him in one of my 2, if that's how your lineups are built, 2 starting running back positions. Not at all. Like if he's going to be a guy rotating in and out week to week, then fine. But I'm avoiding him like as a guy like I rely on like as a legitimate starter. Let me ask you a question. Austin Ekeler or Joe Mixon?
Joe Mixon for me.
Yeah, me too. Honestly, had you not picked Austin Ekeler, I would have.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, I feel like he was probably a popular nomination. Anthony says 1K season for Cup incoming. Keep the receipt. You got it, buddy. I got the receipt for you. But yeah, man, should we move on to our next pick? I don't really have anything else for Joe Mixon unless you do.
No, I'm done.
Alrighty. Well, moving on to my second overall player for the players to avoid. It is going to be Adam Thielen for the Carolina Panthers.
No, you didn't.
And yes, I nominated Adam Thielen, and I got a couple reasons why. I think the first and foremost is he's going to be 34. Like at some point, the wheels fall off. And I know we're looking at Adam Thielen, where last year he had a ton of volume for Adam Thielen. He had 137 targets. That is the most targets that Adam Thielen has seen since 2018 in Minnesota when he was balling and was a top 12 fantasy football wide receiver. Now, here's the difference with Adam Thielen. Keep in mind, I said this is the second most since 2018, a half decade. But Adam Thielen was outside of the top 24 wide receivers in fantasy points per game. So you're telling me he got the second most volume he's gotten in half a decade, but he couldn't even crack the top 24? That was a volume wide receiver to the T. This guy was being floated in your PPR leagues because of the volume. Do you expect Carolina to see what they put on tape last year with Bryce Young and those wide receivers and say, yeah, we got enough in Adam Thielen. We don't need to add anybody else to this wide receiver room? I would say you're out your goddamn mind if you don't think they're going to be trying to add 1, 2, maybe 3 wide receivers this offseason. And if you start adding younger, more talented players, I know you're shaking your head because they don't have their first round pick. I get it. They do have a top 3 pick in the second round, which this is a very deep wide receiver class. You can address that position. They have a ton of cap space. They can go sign a wide receiver in this free agent class who has a lot of talented wide receivers. And then I just look at some of the other things that Adam Thielen was doing last year. When you look at air yards, he was 40th. So it really was volume that he was getting. He had a top 15 target share, top 13 in targets. I just don't see that happening again this year. The yards per reception was 93rd in the NFL. There was 92 other wide receivers getting more yards per reception than Adam Thielen. I just cannot see this happening as a guy that you should be buying at this point. And this is a guy who right now is currently being valued, and I'll stop yapping here in a second, where I'll let you get to it. This is a guy right now, Adam Thielen, who is being valued in the community already as the wide receiver 97. He has basically been written off at this point. If you had sold Adam Thielen during the season, that was your selling time. At this point, there is no value in having Adam Thielen. I think as far as a fantasy football asset goes, a dynasty fantasy football asset goes, we've pretty much seen everything he has to offer. It might be close to that time where Adam Thielen kind of rides off into the sunset as far as fantasy football goes.
I will say this. I agree with everything you just said, except one part.
All right.
You said that I don't see the Panthers. Is David Tepper still the owner of the Panthers?
Yes, he is.
So is there a world where he says, oh, man, no, Adam Thielen is a wide receiver 1, and he proved it last year, and then not really give the wide receiver position the proper weapons, and once again screws over Bryce Young, same guy that traded DJ Moore? Yeah, I can see it. That doesn't mean that Adam Thielen isn't going to land straight on his face, because you're right, the production isn't there when you look deeper into the numbers. I mean, considering the position he was in on the Panthers, he definitely should have had even better numbers. Top tier volume wide receiver, and he didn't do it. So I'm right there with you on the future not looking too bright for Adam Thielen. So I think, yeah, I'm right there with you.
Yeah, man. I just think, like, even if they decide, like, we're going to take a second round pick and we're going to draft, a rookie and hope that pans out better than Jonathan Mingo panned out for us last year. And maybe in year 2, Jonathan Mingo takes a step forward. Who knows? But I look at this free agent market at the wide receiver position. We know how strong the class is. We don't need to talk about the rookie class being strong at the wide receiver position. Everybody's beat that to death at this point. Mm-hmm. But I look at the free agent class. These are some of the names of guys that are going to be free agents available to sign to any team. And I'm just going to go through the list of probably 5 to 10 guys. And this is just very quickly guys that I think if they landed in Carolina, they would be a better fantasy football wide receiver than Adam Thielen. And we don't have to, I'm going to go over the name. We're not even going to talk about the Mike Evans, T. Higgins, Michael Pittman Jr.'s. We know they would be better. Here's a list of some of the guys that I think could be better. Tyler Boyd, Curtis Samuel, Hollywood Brown.
Okay, I get you on that one.
Gabe Davis. Okay. KJ Osborne.
No.
I'm telling you, these are the guys. I don't know if that was 4 or 5 at this point. We could even look at guys like potentially Kendrick Bourne. Did I say Kendrick Bourne?
No.
Calvin Ridley. Like, these are guys that could be better. Darnell Mooney, maybe.
No.
So that tells you where I feel like Adam Thielen is right now in his career, and how I think that is going to translate to your fantasy team. So I'm just not in on Adam Thielen anymore. Love Adam Thielen, especially as a guy who was, one of the homegrown Minnesota Vikings guys for a long time. Love Adam Thielen, but those days are gone, man. Eventually, we all gotta say goodbye to our heroes. And Adam Thielen, you're a hero in Minneapolis, man. But go to the retirement home. We're done. It's over.
You turned on him. You did.
I'm sorry. And we've got Frank in here. He's telling everybody to go get Tank Dell. So, if you want a good rookie wide receiver, go get Tank Dell. But he's been balling out. But
that's pretty difficult to do. I've tried.
Yeah. But I do want to leave it there unless you have anything else about. Am I being blasphemous? Am I out of character?
You're out of character considering your fandom, but when you look at the numbers, you're not out. It's not blasphemous. You're telling the truth when you look at the numbers. But as a Vikings fan, yeah, you're a blasphemer. Definitely.
Fair enough. All right. Well, let's get on to your second guy. We'll talk about him. War, you nominated Tyler Lockett, wide receiver for the Seattle Seahawks. So talk to me a little bit about Tyler Lockett and why you are avoiding him in all of your dynasty leagues.
It doesn't have so much so to do with the decline of Tyler Lockett. It has everything to do with the ascension of JSN. I seen JSN sit on the stage during the Super Bowl, and basically when they asked him what did he think of Shane Waldron, he said, "Man, good luck, Bears." Good luck. That's what he said. That's pretty much what he said. So I'm taking that as an assumption that, see, my personal idea, I think Shane Waldron is fine as an offensive coordinator, but that doesn't change the fact that clearly JSN wasn't targeted or used as much as JSN believes he should have. So I'm going to have to believe that the OC that's coming in is going to come in knowing, okay, I got to get this guy JSN the ball. He's a weapon. That immediately is going to come at the detriment of Tyler Lockett, considering the age, considering that it seems like the Seahawks are moving on as an organization from the Legion of Boom regime of Pete Carroll. And Tyler Lockett is a part of that. I think going forward, this thing is mainly going to be DK Metcalf, JSN, Tyler Lockett taking the back seat to those guys. And I just think that's what's going to happen. I think Tyler Lockett has a couple years where he can be productive. I just don't think he's going to be that Tyler Lockett that comes in and just awes everybody with his numbers on any given week. I don't think we're going to see that anymore.
Yeah. I mean, I could totally agree with that. I also think that you said that Tyler Lockett or Jackson Smith and Jigba felt like he should have been getting more targets. I think the Dynasty fantasy football community as a whole will tell you that we all feel like Jackson Smith and Jigba should have been getting more targets.
I have him on the team. Yes, I agree.
Yeah, because, I mean, we all had him as the wide receiver one in the rookie class. Like almost everybody did. He was pretty unanimous, the wide receiver one in the class. Goes to a situation where he didn't get a lot of usage year one. And if you were tapped into the show back then last summer, we told you that kind of should be the expectation. We didn't expect him to fully break out year one because he had a lot of hurdles to get over. So if you were watching the show, you knew that was kind of in the range of outcomes. Now, I will say, I'm looking at Tyler Lockett's contract. Right now, Tyler Lockett has a potential out in the contract that they could exercise this offseason. If they exercise that out, they will save nearly $25 million in cap space over the next 2 years. Tyler Lockett, he's going to be 32 years old in 2024. If you don't see this guy being a part of the future and you believe in Jackson Smith and Jigba, who you drafted in the first round of last year, who we did see come on at the end of the season a little bit more, why would you guarantee Tyler Lockett that extra $25 million? I don't understand why you would. Now, I understand, in 6 months ago, the relationship that Tyler Lockett and Pete Carroll had, I understand why you say, okay, yeah, that's a move that we're going to make because Pete Carroll and Tyler Lockett are buddies. Pete Carroll's not there anymore. There's a new guy in town, and it makes me think that they might not have as deep of ties as they did with some of the older Seahawks. I think that's something that could happen. Now, we look at Tyler Lockett last year, and he, from a fantasy points per game standpoint, had a pretty significant dip. 3 years prior, from 2020 all the way on, it was top 12, top 17, top 16. Last year, he was 37th. So we saw that first fall off. We know that wide receiver cliff is further down the road than the running back cliff. We know the running back cliff is 6, 7, 8 years into the NFL, and that's about the time that you start falling off. The wide receiver, it's more so 9, 10, and then you start falling off really about age 30. Well, like I said, Tyler Lockett, he's going to be 32 years old. We could have seen the cliff happen. There is some things that I think show that he isn't the guy that he used to be. The average target distance fell tremendously. He's 52nd in the NFL now. So he's not running as deep of routes as he was before, which was a big part of his game because he was a deep threat that was scoring a lot of touchdowns. Now, I don't think either of us really believe in Geno Smith. I don't think either of us really feel like he's the quarterback of the future. So there's going to be changes as well. I think Geno could be out eventually, either this year or next. Lockett's on his way out. JSN's arrived. I'm fully on board with you here as a guy. I just don't see any interest in getting Tyler Lockett. And when I look at where he's being valued around similar wide receivers in his tier, right now, per KTC, looking at the value adjacent wide receivers, I'll name you some of the guys. You tell me if you'd rather have them. Elijah Moore.
I'd rather have Tyler Lockett.
Okay. Xavier Legette, rookie out of South Carolina.
I haven't researched him yet, but I probably will lean the rookie.
Legette. Yeah, I'll take Legette. Tez Walker out of UNC. I'll take Tez Walker. You could go Rashad Bateman, who's due to be a free agent here in a year. That's kind of the range that he's at. If you want to look at some of the other overall players, he's being valued similarly to early third-round picks, Ty Chandler, Kenny Pickett. These are some of the guys that are there. I think even though Kenny Pickett could have his time done in Pittsburgh, I think there's more value in holding a Kenny Pickett than there is to a Tyler Lockett at this point, just especially in a Superflex league. At the chance he gets a second team to buy into him, you look at some of the other guys that are being valued similarly, Antonio Gibson, Dameon Pierce, maybe they have more upside if they get opportunities here. I don't know. I just don't love Tyler Lockett, but I also do think that we've seen the value cliff fall off in Dynasty as well, to where he's not really worth a damn anymore.
Yeah, I mean, I think the last gasp of breath of hope for Tyler Lockett is probably something happening like the Seahawks cutting him and him going to be play behind Rashee Rice in Kansas City. If that happens, there's going to be a flock of people trying to acquire Tyler Lockett. So,
okay, maybe that's the opportunity where you get the sell window, where we see a guy like Tyler Lockett go to a contender. Maybe he goes and replaces Gabe Davis, who's a free agent in Buffalo. Maybe he goes to play with, like you said, Kansas City, or maybe he replaces Tyler Boyd, who's a free agent in Cincinnati. He gets one of those contending landing spots. I think people will buy into Tyler Lockett again. And at that point, if you could flip him for any second, are you in?
Yeah, probably, especially if I'm a rebuilding team. Yeah, for sure.
I'm flipping him for any second round pick I can get. But anyways, let's move on to my next guy and my last guy, because I said we all nominated 3. I am going to be nominating Darren Waller, who didn't have the best season ever for the New York Giants. This is a guy who was sent from Las Vegas over there, and I'm trying to pull him up right now, so sorry if I'm a little bit lagged. But this is a guy who went from Las Vegas all the way over to New York. Unfortunately, it was right after him and his wife, Kelsey Plum, got married, they sent him across the country and said, you can't hang out with your wife anymore. So that was something that I thought was unfortunate for him. But I look at some of the value adjacent tight ends for where Darren Waller is at right now. And this is a guy who last year, like I said, he missed some games due to injury. We look at his overall performance. He had 52 receptions for 552 yards and 1 touchdown last year. Would have been fine from a points per game standpoint. I think if he would have held up throughout the year, he was scoring about 9.4 fantasy points per game. It was high-end tight end 2 for your fantasy football teams. But I think the issue was nobody paid tight end 2 prices to add Darren Waller to their team last year. He was a guy who was going tight end 1, probably mid to top tier tight end 1 prices. And he also hasn't played a full season in 3 years. He's continually battling injuries. This is a guy who has dealt with knee injuries, hamstring injuries, groin injuries, all the way back. And that's just, I list all of those injuries, and we're only to 2022. There's 2 more years of injuries that he hasn't played a full season. So he's just been an injury kind of, I don't want to call him injury prone, but he's had a lot of injuries up to this point, and they're starting to tally up. When you look at the snap share, he was 20th in snap share. This is a guy who wasn't running a ton of routes. He was not doing a lot after the catch. He was 23rd in the NFL after the catch. Not a lot of touchdowns, obviously. Like I said, only 1 touchdown on the year. That's a 1.9% touchdown rate. It's pretty damn low. So I just am not in on him at this point. And I think there's still a lot of questions that need to be addressed in New York. Obviously, last year, a lot of the enticing things about Darren Waller was he was probably going to be the wide receiver 1 on the offense. He was the most talented receiver in the entire team. This year, we've seen in a lot of mock drafts, number 6th overall. We've seen them mocking Malik Neighbors to the Giants. We've seen Rome Odunze to the Giants. We've seen one of these guys go to the Giants. Yeah. They're going to add some wide receiver help. They can't go out there with Wan'Dale Robinson, Darius Slayton. They can't do that. They have to add a number 1 guy. So that's going to hurt his target share. It's going to hurt his volume, which I think was one of the things that was kind of propping him up in the first place. Additionally, this is there's the Daniel Jones question. Is Daniel Jones a good NFL quarterback? No. Probably not. Probably not. So do you want a tight end locked into Daniel Jones? Probably not. I look at where he's being valued in dynasty leagues right now, and it's not high. I mean, this is a guy who saw that significant value dip, but he's being valued in a range where you could swap him out for a tight end like Greg Dulcich, who I might consider doing that. Dulcich could be the starter in Denver this year, and I think he has a good athletic profile. You could swap him for a guy like Noah Fant, who's a free agent tight end, who's a lot younger and could potentially land in a situation where it's a lot more beneficial for Noah Fant. When you look across at the other players, Roman Wilson, guy who, took everybody's eyes at his Senior Bowl day. Everyone loved Roman Wilson. So if you could swap him for that, probably would do it. And then you get into those late seconds, early 3rd round picks, probably just re-roll the dice, because we know last year there was guys like Sam Laporta who were going in 3rd rounds, late 2nd rounds. And this year, even though the tight end class isn't as strong, it's strong in other positions. So yes, you may not be able to swap Darren Waller for a tight end, but I think you could move him and get a better player long-term for your dynasty teams. I just don't see any brighter days for Darren Waller ahead at this point. I think we've seen the best of Darren Waller. It was those days when he was in Las Vegas with Derek Carr, and they were giving him a hell of a lot of targets, and he was scoring a lot of fantasy points for your teams. He's just not that guy anymore. And it's not a guy that I am going to be drafting on my dynasty teams probably ever again in dynasty fantasy football. I'm pretty much out on Darren Waller at this point.
Yeah, I've been out on him. I was out on him last season. Mainly, I would say because of the injuries. The injuries alone were enough to just make me say that I don't want to be a part of the Darren Waller experience. But then he backed that up by also having lackluster production. Then the quarterback is mid. If that's me being nice, he's mid. And he's attached to that quarterback. So I don't even think, even though I do think that this is besides the point, kind of, I do think that there's a world where the Giants might draft J.J. McCarthy with their first pick. I do think that world exists.
Yeah,
I think that world exists. I mean,
it's always in the range of outcomes.
With Daniel Jones. They might be completely done with him. And I think J.J. McCarthy is going to rise during the combine and during interviews. I just think he's going to rise up on the boards.
I do too.
Which then, if you look at that, like, okay, I got a rookie quarterback. Tight ends, rookie quarterbacks, targets. But then, if you do that, then why not just kick Darren Waller and his money to the curb and have Dane Bellinger? He's decent. Like, just have him in there. So,
yep. I agree. I totally agree. And I think there's a world where, crazier things have happened. We've seen guys go out and have, a bad combine or things like that, and they start falling. Like, I'm not saying that this is going to happen. I think this guy's going to rise after his combine performance. But say a guy like Jaden Daniels or a guy like Drake May goes out and just has a meh kind of combine. Are they on the board for the Giants at 6? Like, if they are, like, how do you look at that and say, do we stick with Daniel Jones over this guy? Like, that's something that could happen. And if that happens, there's a whole bunch of different things that could happen. But at this point, I think as far as the production out of Darren Waller, like, you're probably going to get average production out of Darren Waller for the rest of his career. And I don't want to hold on to players that are old that are going to be average. I want to shoot upside. So if I'm going to shoot for an old player, they better be producing. And if they're not producing, I'm going to flip him for a young guy who could produce in a year or two, given a couple things fall his way. So that's why I say, like, moving Waller for Dulcich, yes, it's risky. Greg Dulcich hasn't done anything at the NFL level to really perform at this point, but his upside is much higher than Darren Waller at this point in his career. And if he does turn into something, then I'd just rather have Greg Dulcich. And that's probably unpopular, unsexy opinion at this point.
Rapid fire. Are you trading Darren Waller for any of the Green Bay tight ends?
Yes.
Musgrave or Kraft? Okay.
Yes, both? I'll do both. Both, yeah.
Let's see. Cole Kmet, that's obvious.
We got Matt in here. He says Hank from the BDG. Guys, appreciate you, Matt.
Let's see. Who am I thinking about? It's pretty much safe to say, dang near all of the young tight ends you probably would trade Darren Waller for. Darren Waller, man. Poor Darren Waller.
I'll go through it real quick. I'm just going to go through like guys that are pretty similar in value to him right now. And this includes some rookies. But Darren Waller, like I said, he's being valued right now as tight end 25. Above him, Greg Dulcich. I'd rather have Dulcich. Would rather have probably at this point, do I prefer Cade Otton? Maybe. Do I prefer Dalton Schultz? For damn sure. Tucker Kraft? Yes. Jatavian Sanders? Yes. Dallas Goedert? Yes. Like, we're getting too high at this point. So I look down below. Dawson Knox or Darren Waller? It's a conversation. Noah Fant or Darren Waller? I probably go Noah Fant. Like, that's where I'm at with Darren Waller. So I'm just not in on him at this point. I think, like I said, the best days are behind him. And yeah, man, this is a guy that I think, as the title says, I'm avoiding him at all costs. Clearly, I don't want him. So no, I'm not taking Darren Waller. And Matt says, I've talked to you a bit in the Discord. And yes, man, I appreciate it. And so I appreciate you being here supporting the show as well. So it means a lot, man. Thank you. But War, anything else about Darren Waller, or are we done with Darren?
That sounds like a sitcom, but yeah, we're done with Darren.
Done with Darren. All right, now here's where you're gonna have to explain.
Okay, I've been
to me.
Okay, let me
because you said player to avoid at all costs is Mark Andrews of the Baltimore Ravens. So talk to me, War. I need you to defend yourself because I strongly disagree with this take.
Don't you gonna throw him up there twice? Don't throw him up there twice. Okay, look. Okay, look. Why you gotta frame it like that, Andrew? Absolutely avoid at all costs. Absolutely. I didn't say avoid at all costs. So just said just avoid. Just avoid.
Okay.
And the
Tell me why
reason
you're avoiding.
I'm avoiding him because the tight end landscape has changed. And I'm sorry, but there are several younger tight ends, and Mark Andrews isn't old, but there's several younger tight ends that I wouldn't mind taking before Mark Andrews. Why would I take them before Mark Andrews? Because I think we have a different Lamar Jackson. I think the Lamar Jackson that we have now isn't going to sit there and single out Mark Andrews for target. I think he's gonna give some of it to Flowers. He's gonna give some of it to the other wide receivers. You got Isaiah Likely, who plays the same position as Mark Andrews. I mean, I think they want to start putting racehorses on this field with Lamar Jackson to match that speed. And Mark Andrews. Yeah, I was going to say Mark Jackson. I was going to do it. Mark Andrews. He's a great tight end. He's a great tight end. I just don't think the days that maybe avoid at all costs is kind of strong. Obviously, Mark Andrews should probably be on your team. Obviously, he should be one of your starters, probably. But I'm saying, mark my words. You can keep this receipt if you want to.
I was gonna say, don't sit here and try and walk it back by saying he should probably be on your team.
I'm not. I'm gonna make a bold prediction. Mark Andrews is falling off in 2024. I'm saying it.
Receipt it. Everybody who's watching it, screen record it, save it, and save it so you can send it to War.
Will likely supplant Mark Andrews as the starting tight end for the Baltimore Ravens. I said it. Mark Andrews is going to start being injury prone. Lamar Jackson is going to go ahead and there you go. Likely still in the spot. He's still in the spot. He's still in the show there. I'm telling you. I bought Isaiah Likely like 2 seasons ago, and it's time for him to cash in. I'm telling you. The Ravens are going to see it. Andrew, look at me. Andrew. Andrew, look me in my eyes. The Ravens are going to say, man, Mark Andrews, you sure do make a lot of money. Get out of here. We got Isaiah Likely. That's what they're going to do. Watch. They're going to save some money. Because I feel like Isaiah Likely could do the same, if not better, and do it faster than Mark Andrews because he's a faster player. So, yeah, there we go. 2024, the end of Mark Andrews as a Baltimore Raven.
I hear you, but I don't agree. When I look at what Mark Andrews put together this year, and this is a guy who, yes, missed 7 games to the cracked fibula on the hip drop tackle that he took. I can't remember what week it was. It was probably, actually, I have it right here. Week 11 is when he suffered it. I look at what he put together before that. Top 4 in the NFL in route participation. Keep in mind, Isaiah Likely was still on the team at that point. Top 4 in route participation in the NFL. Top 9 in target rate in the NFL. Top 4 in target share in the NFL with a 37.8% red zone percentage.
Mm-hmm.
That is a crazy amount for Mark Andrews. Top 7 in air yard share. Top 6 in red zone targets. Top 5 in fantasy points per game. 2nd in total touchdowns. Mm-hmm. This guy was balling. I think the injury has a lot of people forgetting that Mark Andrews is him. He's him. And I know some people are going to say, well, he's 28 years old and, at some point he's going to get older and I don't want the older player on my team. I'm not saying that Mark Andrews is as good as Travis Kelce is career-wise, but he's not too far off. And if Travis Kelce is giving you tight end 1 numbers into his age 34 season, Mark Andrews can give you 2 or 3 more of them things here in Baltimore. Or even if he's not in Baltimore, he can be somewhere that they are going to have that type of production from him. I love the pairing with Todd Monken. I think that is something that we didn't get to see fully develop, obviously, with the injuries this year. But I just think we are getting too disrespectful about Mark Andrews because when he plays, he's a goddamn playmaker. and he's a goddamn beast for your fantasy football teams. Now, I see over here on Keep Trade Cut, like, he's probably properly valued at this point because the guys above Mark Andrews are Sam Laporta. Yes, obviously we'll take Sam Laporta. Brock Bowers, sure. Trey McBride, okay. TJ Hawkinson, Dalton Kincaid. Sure, yeah, let's do that. But then it's Mark Andrews. That is how valuable this guy is. And it's just, I just am not moving him at this point. I mean, I guess if you want to move him and down tier at the tight end position, I see Frankie in here. He says Ferguson has a better season than Andrews in 2024. Seems like a lot of people, maybe I'm the one out on a limb saying that I like Mark Andrews. Seems like other people don't like Mark Andrews.
Isaiah Likely, man.
I just think, look, man, Isaiah Likely's fun, but there's room for both of these dudes in the offense. Like, there's room for both of them. It's not like Isaiah Likely is good enough that he's going to bench Mark Andrews. That's not what's going to happen. I promise you that. And you can receipt that one too.
Andrew, let me ask you a question. Do you remember what happened in 2009?
I probably was in middle school.
Okay. Let me tell you something that happened in 2009.
All right.
In 2009, the second best tight end in the entire NFL. Let's see. Hold on. Wait. Was Gronk in the NFL in 2009? Yeah.
Gronk
was there. Yeah. Either way.
Before you start spewing, I'm going to fact check you real quick before you start going on.
Okay.
2010 was Gronk's rookie season.
Perfect. Okay. In 2009, the second best tight end in the NFL was traded. He was traded. That tight end was Tony Gonzalez. He was traded to the Falcons. And I can't tell you if Travis Kelce, I don't think Travis Kelce was on the team by then, obviously, because Gronk wasn't even there yet. But my point is, productive tight ends, and I'm not going to say they're coming, and they're not a dime a dozen, but even more so today than ever, you can get a good tight end at any point. The fact that the point that I'm trying to make is that Baltimore already has a second good tight end that makes less money. They just went out there in the playoffs and got embarrassed by the Kansas City Chiefs. If the opportunity strikes for them to make a move and trade Andrews to improve the roster because they already have a spare tight end, I think they're going to do it. And I think that they're going to make a concerted effort to get Isaiah Likely more involved in the offense as a whole. Could they run two tight end sets? Yes. They very well could run a lot of two tight end sets, but it's not going to be the way it was when we started the season this past season, where we went in thinking that Mark Andrews was going to be getting the lion's share of all the opportunities at the tight end position, and Isaiah Likely is going to be scraps. Isaiah Likely proved that he can. Isaiah Likely had what to close out the season, like 3 straight 30-point games. He had something nuts like that.
He's balling.
And he was balling. And I think that they're going to look at that. And I just honestly think NFL teams always look at the money. They always say, okay, this guy makes this guy makes that. We can improve here if we take this guy and put him here and get some draft capital for Mark Andrews. I think he could go to another team and still be a very good tight end. I just think that for the Baltimore Ravens, and in that case, maybe he's not in the void. I'm not walking it back. But I'm saying if he stays on the Ravens, he's a fall-off candidate for me. And he's in the void for me, especially if you're trying to draft a tight end early in the draft. I don't think he should be drafted where he's going to draft. He stays a Raven.
Fair enough. I'm looking at his contract right now. There's a potential out in the contract this offseason. So if they want to move on from him, yes, they could do it this offseason. I'm telling you, I do not think that will happen. You think that that's a range that could happen to them. If they do that, they will take an $11 million dead cap hit, but it will save them about $20 million over the course of the next 2 years. So they'll save about $10 million. But if they moved on in 2025, they would save about $11 million. So I guess they could move on this or next year. I'm just telling you, I don't think that that's going to happen. But we don't have to agree on every take here on Let's Talk Dynasty. In fact, the discourse is actually what helps these people in their Dynasty Fantasy Football leagues because you get two sides of the coin.
Let me ask you one quick one in about Mark Andrews. do you think that it's out of the range of outcomes for Mark Andrews to stay in Baltimore and that Isaiah Likely gets so much more of the share of targets that we have to start looking at Mark Andrews even further down the list of tight ends than we look at him now? Are we still going to be able to value him as that same bona fide guy like a Travis Kelce, a TJ Hawkinson? Are we still going to be able to look at him like that if Isaiah Likely comes in and takes a big part of the targets at the tight end position?
Does Mark Andrews still produce with the targets that he has, or is it affecting him?
He produces, but he produces less because the opportunity goes down.
In that hypothetical world, probably is valued similarly to how he is right now, in my opinion, or just slightly less. Maybe you take him under Kyle Pitts, but that probably would be it. I don't think that there's a world where Isaiah Likely comes in and gets a massive bump in target share that is a detriment to Mark Andrews. I don't think that that's in a world.
Okay. All
right. Not if they choose to stick with Mark Andrews. I mean, if they want to go to Isaiah Likely, then yes, you opt out of the rest of this contract and you move on. But if you don't opt out, you're using Mark Andrews. Right. That's my thought. And Matt's in here. He says their fantasy points per game when they were the main option at tight end isn't that far off. Likely from weeks 12 to 18, averaged 13.8. And Andrews averaged 14.5 between weeks 2 to 10. Non-tight end premium, but still PPR.
Expendable. Expendable.
Yes, he's expendable. I think if you feel like you need that, but I don't feel like they need that.
Is Isaiah Likely a buy?
Sure, but if everybody feels the way that you feel right now, and if it's kind of how some of the people in the comments are talking right now, like if people feel that way, he might be too expensive. In fact, let's see where he's at in keep trade cut. I'll tell you right here, and actually this is a good exercise for you because you're the one who's hyped up on Isaiah Likely. And actually,
I'm putting him on the block as we speak.
And at this point right now, I would say Likely is probably properly valued where I'm seeing him at. But Cole Kmet or Isaiah Likely right now?
Isaiah Likely.
I'd probably go Cole Kmet. Cole Kmet, Isaiah Likely or Evan Engram?
Isaiah Likely.
It's closer because of the. I
don't like Evan Engram. Let me say I don't like Evan Engram. So
it's closer because of the age of Evan Engram. But Evan Engram was like a top 5 fantasy tight end this year. And if Calvin Ridley leaves Jacksonville, he's going to have an even bigger target share. So there's that one. Luke Musgrave or Isaiah Likely. I think that one's close too. You pick your poison of the young tight end. I think Musgrave has a clearer path to targets today. So I probably would go with Musgrave. And then I look at the last one that we could talk about would be actually Isaiah Likely is the next guy on that list. So those are the guys right above him. I think he's probably properly valued right now. One guy below him, Dallas Goedert. I think that's a debate as well. And Pat Freiermuth is just below him as well. I think that's a debate as well. So there's two guys. I don't know. I think he's being properly valued in the community right now. But I see your argument. If these things happen, there is a pathway for Isaiah Likely to have a good breakout type of season. I just don't see those dominoes all falling in favor of Isaiah Likely. That's my argument right here. Is I just don't see that happening for him this year.
All right. I'm right there with you.
So Matt says, let's get a win-win situation and just have one of these tight ends come to the Texans for Stroudy. So, hey, why not? Isaiah Likely on the Texans would be pretty damn good. And I see MFGDs. He's out the building. We're about to close the show. I don't think he's actually out the building. I think he had to have a conversation real quick. But with that being said, guys, that was our players to avoid in 2024 on your Dynasty Fantasy Football Leagues. Welcome back, War. So with that being said, guys, we are about to get on out of here. Make sure you guys do us a favor, hit that like button on your way out. If you enjoyed the content, you found it entertaining, you found it actionable, there's good things in it for you, hit that like button. It's the best way to show support to us. We appreciate you guys doing that. Make sure you're hitting the subscribe button. That way you never miss any of our future content. And make sure you are subscribing over to War's channel. War is doing his own thing over there in the WWE space. So if you guys like professional wrestling, you guys like WWE, AEW, all that stuff, go subscribe to War. War, what is the channel name for him?
The channel name is The Crimson Mass Show. Check us out. We're on the rise. We're doing our thing over there. I'm very appreciative for anybody who's already done that. And it's full steam ahead. Let's do it.
Yes, sir, man. We're trying to get him to 1,000 subscribers at this point. So if you like that type of stuff, you like WWE, you like wrestling, or you say, hey, I like the League FFB and I just want to support War from Let's Talk Dynasty, go subscribe to that. And then last but not least, guys, join the Discord. That is where we're pulling the AMA questions. That's where we are having people help us with future rookie mocks, startup drafts, trade shows. All of that stuff is in the Discord. Lots of good things happening in the Discord. And so with all that being said, guys, let us know in the comment section below, who are you avoiding in 2024 for your Dynasty Fantasy Football Leagues? But with that being said, War, let's get on out of here. What do you say?
Yeah, let's do it. We'll see you guys next time.
All right, guys. Peace out.